Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on the future of furniture, circular solutions for a post-COVID world. This webinar is being run as part of the Interreg North Sea region funded Prosec project. My name is Peter Ramsey. I'm from an organisation called Business in the Community, and we are one of the partners who have been coordinating this event. Also, I just would like to say thanks to Spella at Zero Waste Scotland and Christian from the Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management, who have been helping me to put this together. We've got a packed agenda for you today. So Spella, if you can just flick on to the next slide. So I will give a very short introduction to the Prosec project and hand over to Barbara Morton, who's one of the consultants who works with Zero Waste Scotland. She'll explain all about the benefits of procuring circular furniture and why you should do it. We'll then go into the session for suppliers, and we've got 4 suppliers joining us today, so we'll hear from each of them. We were also planning to be joined by somebody from Go Good, who are one of the Norwegian suppliers. Unfortunately, he's had a family emergency this morning and has been unable to join. After we hear from the suppliers, we'll hand over to 2 of the other Prosec partner organisations who have had experience of procuring circular furniture and get their perspectives on that. And then we'll have 20 minutes or so for a panel discussion at the end. Thank you for all of the questions that you've submitted in advance, but you can also use the chat function in Zoom to send further questions as we hear the presentations. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a very short introduction to Prosec. As I say, it is a Interreg North Sea region funded project, and it's been set up to experiment, implement and learn how circular economy and circular procurement can benefit the North Sea region. You can see on the map what Interreg define as the North Sea region, and within the project we've got 12 partner organisations working across these countries. There's 4 sort of active output generating work packages in the project. Work package 4 is creating pilot projects. So we've got an objective to support 30 pilot projects in circular procurement. Some of those are in our own organisations as Prosec partners, but we also support third-party organisations. So if you've got any procurements coming up and you'd like to explore circular approaches, feel free to get in touch to see whether we can support you with that. Work package 3 is putting together a toolkit of circular procurement resources and tools. Work package 5 is creating peer-to-peer learning groups, looking at specific sectors and approaches within regions, basically sharing best practice between organisations. And then work package 6 is looking at how we can upscale and create long-term approaches to the pilots that we've experimented with. So looking at how we can influence policy, both at an EU level and at a national level. So that's a very short introduction to the project as a whole. But in this webinar, we really want to do a bit of a deep dive into how you can procure circular and remanufactured furniture. This is one of the things which comes up again and again in many of the pilot projects we're doing, and we think it's a really great topic to explore more deeply at the moment and share the learnings we've had so far with a wider audience. So I will hand over then to the first speaker, who is Barbara Morton from Sustainable Procurement Limited, consulting for Zero Waste Scotland. Thanks, Barbara.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, and hello, everyone. I think I should say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because I think we have an international audience today. It's my great pleasure to be here. I'm delighted to be invited to set the scene for today's event on behalf of Zero Waste Scotland. As Peter said, we're working on the Prosec project with Zero Waste Scotland. So I'm going to talk about circular furniture. Why do it? Of course, circular furniture is not new to many people here today, but the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the context dramatically. We're meeting at a time of major change in many markets, the furniture market possibly more than most. And as organizations are preparing for some staff at least to return to work, workplaces are not going to look and feel the same as they have in recent years. I think we can all agree. Now that so many of us are becoming used to working from home, the way we look at work and home spaces is changing, and maybe forever. So this means our needs for furniture are changing even as we speak. The furniture sector is well represented by companies operating a circular business model. These companies have moved away from the traditional linear model that we see on this slide of make, use, and dispose, towards a more circular model in which resources are kept at their highest value for as long as possible. So as we can see here, there are many different business models that are being adopted in relation to furniture, amongst other things, from design for reuse to remanufacture and take back at the end of at least first life. And amongst these models are design for durability and reuse, design for remanufacture and recycling, but also the use of recycled materials in, for example, low impact furniture, and for low carbon materials and lightweighting to begin to come into furniture manufacture. We also have to think about lease and product service systems and the reuse and refurbishment, as we can see on the screen, of furniture that is already in use. These slides and some of these images are taken from a video that Zero Waste Scotland has created on circular procurement, by the way. So as we can see on this slide, the scale of the furniture industry across Europe is significant. These figures are taken from the European Furniture Industries Confederation on the left. And at the European scale, the circular furniture sector has the potential to deliver many benefits. On the right, we can see research pointing towards the possibility of creating maybe 160,000 additional jobs. And at a time of recovery, and green recovery, that's pretty significant, I think we can all agree. At the same time, that could reduce CO2 equivalent by about or up to 5.7 million tons. And at the same time, we could have up to 5.7 million tons of additional waste recycled or being reused. So those are significant figures, and that's the sort of thing that we can drive through more circular procurement practice. So what can we all do? We're going to have lots of examples today, and we'll be hearing about lots of ways that we can adopt a more circular approach to procurement of furniture. The things that we can do include integrating circular economy criteria into public and private procurement. In other words, we can specify it. And as a buyer, that's something that I'm always advocating. In doing that, we can promote services over ownership models, so we can think about what we're specifying from the point of view of what business models we want to buy into. And we can prioritize reuse, repair, and remanufacture of assets. All of these are actions for buyers. So as this slide shows, there are actions we can take. And on the next one, we're going to see some of the benefits of doing so. So the benefits. For me, this is a three-part set. Of course, there are going to be benefits to suppliers, and we'll be hearing about those today. The benefits to buyers, let's start with buyers. Cutting waste, and in doing so, cutting cost. Reducing emissions, and helping to meet those climate change targets that we all have to focus on nowadays. Increasingly, procurement is being looked to help address the climate emergency. Then the benefits to suppliers. We'll be hearing from suppliers today about the benefits to them, and they include improving productivity and opening up new markets for circular furniture. And last but not least, it's very important for me to focus on the wider community, because it's not just benefits to buyers and supplier community that we should be thinking about. The wider community can benefit as well. The wider community benefits by retaining or creating jobs, again, thinking about green recovery, that's important. Providing opportunities for skills and training or retraining, developing those skills, and also significantly for me, providing lower cost options to access the goods we need. So sharing resources, sharing equipment, for example. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about the many different examples of circular furniture in action at today's event. And I'd like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bob. And I think the whole post-COVID Build Back Better theme comes through very strongly there. And I think with furniture, it's one of the really practical ways we can use circular economy to create this green recovery at the moment. One thing I forgot to mention before is that we are recording this presentation today. So we'll send the recording as well as the slide deck to the panelists after the session. Sorry, not to the panelists, to the audience, of course. And speaking of panelists, we're going to hand over to the next one now, which is Anne from Workspace, who are the first of our suppliers today. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Barbara, for that introduction. Have you passed the slides over, Spella, because they're not moving? Thank you. So, hello guys, thank you very much for coming along to listen to us today. And that introduction from Barbara was really helpful, because I think hopefully the things she set we're going to be able to build on when we talk about what we're doing in this space. And I know that the others in the parts of the presentation that other people are bringing will sort of reinforce key points that Barbara has raised there. I'm going to talk very briefly about Crown Workspace and our journey from sustainability to circular service provider, and then talk a little bit more at the end about social value. Sorry, Spella, the slides aren't moving.
Yeah, just try and click on the screen with your mouse.
No, they're not. Thank you. So, Crown Workspace, for those of you who don't know us, we're part of the global Crown Worldwide family, and we support organisations who are moving and changing their workplace with a range of different services. But doing this sustainably with a unique range of facilities and services is at the core of what we do. And some of these elements I'm going to touch on a little bit more now as we talk about how we approach the circular economy. You could change again, please, Spella. So the sorts of organisations that we work with are large public and private sector organisations, all who have dynamic, I've got my phone's going here as well, nightmare. Large public and private sector organisations who have complex working environment and who have you know, a key interest in the sustainability agenda. You could move forward, Spella. So our sustainable workplace journey started about 10 years ago when we were looking at why organisations that were moving and changing were getting rid of so much office furniture and equipment. And we looked to speak to our clients and to the market to try and understand why this happened. And we developed service interventions at any point where we saw that furniture was ending up being wasted rather than reused. You can move on, Spella. So a key starting point for us was carrying out furniture audits for clients, because we found that when clients were saying they were getting rid of lots of furniture, they didn't actually know what the furniture was they were getting rid of and the potential value for it. So by offering a furniture audit as a starting point for our clients, we were able to generate a mapping tool for reuse. We would capture pictures and details of the products that were being wasted, and then we could direct them to the highest economic and social value possible. And this is still a key crux of what we do now. Spella. And talking about economic value, I think when you look at the circular models, trying to maximise the revenue and the economics that support the model is a really important element. And to this extent, we own our two resale channels in the marketplace, one for office furniture, office resale, and then IT resale. And effectively, we're now taking control of marketing the redundant items and pitching them out to the marketplace to look and feel like they're quality assets, things that people want, to make them desirable. One of the challenges of circular economy, of course, is that you don't necessarily control the inputs, the assets that people are getting rid of. So it's really important. The more, the more that you can control that or be in charge of adding value to it, the more you can support the economics of refurbishment and repair. So we present these as professionally refurbished and quality items. So let's move on. Another important part of what we do, and it speaks to what Barbara was saying about the significant furniture poverty that we have in the country, is the Giving Back project. We know lots of organisations who are getting rid of furniture want to try and donate it, but matching up demand and supply and logistical capability is really, really challenging. So we operate the Giving Back project, which helps us direct thousands of items into charities, schools and social enterprises by working in the middle, understanding what charities and social enterprises want, and then using that as part of our approach when we're auditing, knowing what we can direct to whom. And we've got an online portal that charities can order out of free of charge. Next slide, please. But a real key crux of what we do, and an area that we've invested in heavily, is in our refurbishment and remanufacturing capability. It was apparent to us that a lot of the furniture is going to waste, maybe because it's ripped or torn, maybe it's the wrong size, or perhaps, people are looking for different functionality. So we started working in this area and invested probably over £1 million, or well, much more than that now. And we've got a facility that employs people, 15 full-time staff, carrying out the refurbishment and remanufacture of office furniture. The next couple of slides, if you just move on, Stella. I would love to be walking you all around there right now, although with the amount of people on the call, it'd probably be a bit congested. But at any time, we always welcome people to come down and see what we're doing at the Renew Centre, because what we try and do there is make remanufacturing refurbished to such a standard that it really can challenge new. The equipment that we've invested in produces new tops to a very high specification. Next slide, please. And we've got a really great team of experienced staff who are passionate about what they do and are able to take old assets and really just make them look fantastic. And I think what's really important is the skills that we're developing around doing this. We've been learning the whole time that we do this, but by investing and doing this at scale, we now put tens of thousands of items through here every year. And I think last year we revenued about 2.5 million of office furniture in terms of value. And it means that we can challenge new, we can give procurement confidence in what we're doing. Next slide, please. We change the size of tops, the colours of tops, we do refurbishment, reconfigure things, and we make bespoke items. Next slide, please. But what we try and do, most of all, is make reuse business as usual. Everything you see on that screen was waste. People were getting rid of it, which is, it's crazy really when you look at that. But we make every effort to make it look absolutely fantastic. Next slide. And a key part of doing this is the sort of wider social value benefits from it. And these were alluded to and mentioned by Barbara, but they're really core to what we do. We know from the work that we've been doing that it generates skills and employment. Our team have worked for the organisation for a long time, and the new people that we've brought into it, we've invested in their training. We've developed apprenticeships, particularly in the IT repair and refurbishment, because we recognised there were not the skills in place that were needed. And actually, as well as all the environmental benefits, water savings and carbon savings, supporting the charities and schools and social enterprises right now by getting that furniture back out to them is really important. Last slide. So, we're continuing to drive this agenda. We're continuously looking to improve the circularity of what we do, making more from the offcuts and the byproducts of what we're doing, making sure when we're bringing in new materials, they're as sustainable as they can be, supporting clients who want furniture as a service model. All of these things are areas that we're continuing to develop because it's a journey, it's not a destination. And despite all my technical difficulties, my phone going off, which was inconvenient, I just want to direct you to the white paper on our website where we've captured a bit more about what we've done. If anyone's interested, you can go and have a look afterwards. I think that's my time up.
Yep, thank you very much, Anne. You're bang on time. And for anybody who is in and around London, I'd definitely recommend going to their news centre. I've done it myself, and it's just an incredible experience walking around with all of this furniture piled up high all around, and seeing all of the facilities that they've got to remanufacture it. But now we're going to head up to Scotland and hear from John Ross from Kinross Wooden Products Company, who I know have been doing a lot of work with Zero Waste Scotland. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Thanks, John.
Morning, everyone. Thanks very much indeed, Peter. Thanks, Anne. And Barbara, nice to hear from you again, Barbara. Let's see if the screens are going. There we are. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about where we see things going. Kinross Wooden Products Company is in itself quite a new business, but I'll give you some context of where this all came from. Back in the late 90s, I set up a consultancy company called Ogilvy Ross that was working in the furniture industry. Our core then was looking at sustainable procurement. Over like the first 18 years, take it up to about 2016, we developed a number of large-scale programs for the public sector looking at predominantly reuse, where product was coming out of a building, being held and going into another building. And we were working across Scotland with that one. We were doing projects in London, a number of big things that were there. But in 2018, we really started to recognize quite a big difference in the marketplace. And the concept of taking product out of a building, holding onto it, and then putting it into another building was starting to fail, mainly because technology had moved on. The large format desks, the big 1800 Crescents, were no longer going back into buildings. Nobody wanted them. They took up too much floor space. And in Scotland at the time, there was no real alternative. And we sat down, looked at it, we prototyped a few things, and then decided as a management team we would create a new business, which was Kinross Wooden Products, specifically to look at developing a scalable commercial remanufacturing business in Scotland that looked at the product as material rather than what can we sell off the back of it. And that's really where this came, and it's changed now that the bulk of the work we have is taking public sector furniture and converting it at the moment into home office desks. There's a regular throughput that we have for people now who are forced to work from home, and we're looking at one later on this week where exactly the same thing, public sector bodies decommissioning their offices, everything is coming out, but it's what can you actually do with that, and how can we build on that. The benefits, I think it's been mentioned before, we've been doing this now for about 20 years in various different formats. The financial savings are there, both for the manufacturers and for the procurement specialists. You get much better resource efficiency going through. A lot of the clients that we have in the UK have been 20-year clients, where we're developing long-term strategies to manage their furniture, to manage that whole process. One of the things I was asked to look at was the economics of doing this. And I think it's important. So what I've done is I've done a comparison between a brand new product. And this is based on contract prices in Scotland for the public sector. So a 1600 by 800 straight desk typically is on a contract price through Excel of something like £75. This is an unsophisticated straight desk with nothing much going on with it. That £75 represents the materials cost to make it and about 4 or 5 organisations who handle that product from virgin material to actually sitting in someone's office. You've got a manufacturer, and at the moment about 80% of the contract desking that's in Scotland is manufactured in China. It may be assembled up here, but actually most of the production is actually happening elsewhere. If you then build on that, the fact that you've got to move it around, you've got to ship it, you've got to put it in, the £75 is actually a £10 to £13 product that's been shipped all around the world with a high carbon footprint. What we then started to look at was, if you took product out of a building and remanufactured a 1600 by 800 desk, what are the economics, and does it make a viable commercial business in Scotland? The desk materials that we have in the workshops at the moment have been stripped down. They're just materials. It's no longer a desk, it's just flat materials stocked up. The fact is we make about £3 on every sheet that goes in there because we've been paid to take it away from the client's premises. We make about £3 profit doing that. Remanufacturing a desk from you. So this is actually taking the board and just machining it as if you're taking a brand new board. About £13 on that. Because you made a profit on the board material, your net cost of the desk is about the same as it is to make it in a large scale factory. But it means that our actual installed cost of a desk in Scotland is about £17. We're selling them at 65, which is a saving to the public sector. And on that, we make a very healthy profit. In fact, we make more profit on that than the furniture dealers did who were selling the ones that were made in China. So the economics of this are very, very strong. We've been doing a lot of work with Zero Waste and Scottish Enterprise to say when you're starting to make that kind of margin per item, you actually have the basis for building jobs and building communities here, particularly when you move, as we have done, into a very rural location. The building I'm in, filming from at the moment, is actually a cowshed on a farm that we converted into workshops and factory space. But it means that our rent is less than £1 per square foot per annum, compared to putting an industrial estate at £22 a square foot plus rates. So the economics of doing this on a localized basis, and picking up on Anne's point, I've done quite a lot of stuff in London and a number of companies down there. You have to look at the geographical distances. London has a huge throughput of businesses, Scotland less so, and Scotland's are spread out. Myself and the chaps are very happily driving for nearly 4 hours tomorrow to Loch Gilphead up in the Highlands to do a job up there. But the fact is, if you can make the margin on the product because you have not had to buy materials, then actually you've got scope to build a very sustainable business. There are some practical issues. Simply being a circular provider will not win you contracts. I've spoken at a number of things, and I've met a number of people who said, oh, we're circular, we upcycle, we should get the business. That is not going to carry any weight at all. That just happens to be something you are. You actually have to provide higher levels of service than the new providers. Everything that they do, you have to do. Because it has to be a choice that people make to say, yep, this is a better alternative. They're not doing it because it's a green or it's a circular issue. One of the challenges we had to start with is as soon as you talk about a circular product, it's viewed as second-hand, it's inferior, it's poor quality. We also have an issue of the artisan upcycled one-offs that are not commercial products. Someone who has actually made a reception desk from flotsam and jetsam we picked up at the seaside isn't a commercial product, but it's an artistic product. But that does muddy the water a lot. That people think if you're doing this type of work, that you're making things from weird and wonderful things that are one-offs. Everything that we do has to have warranties compatible with new products. We put a standard 10-year warranty on anything we manufacture that goes out, and that's a replace the parts or replace the product. You have to go beyond client expectations to win their trust. We've got 22-year-long clients who use us all the time simply because they can trust us to get the job done in a cost-effective and professional way. Simply being a circular business that has a goal isn't going to carry it. And at the end, you've got to have great value, you've got to meet the client needs and exceed them, and you've got to make it really easy for clients to buy. If it's difficult for them to do because you can't do what new suppliers are doing, then the public procurement people will just go for the easy option. Not because they're geared to doing that, but that's how it works. This has to be easy to do. And the market demand is always changing, and you've got to be able to adapt. We're having to do that almost on a weekly basis to see as things change here. Being small and flexible and just a manufacturing resource, we can actually do that. And finally, you've got to make a profit. Far too often over the last 20 years, I've been involved on a consultancy basis with very well-meaning social enterprises that were never geared to make a profit. They were living off the funding. And it has been a problem in the circular economy that it's often viewed that it's a social good and you should support it. Actually, this has to be commercially viable if it's going to survive. Looking forward where we are, we're doing a lot of home office, small office products. We're doing products for the education sector. We're now doing component stock holding because we see an opportunity in the DIY market. So lots of stuff's getting stripped and we're building that up. We're gearing up for the fact that there's going to be a lot of surplus product in the marketplace. One of the biggest challenges is that people are not going to be buying furniture. They don't need to. They've got so much extra stuff that's coming out. We're just seeing nothing at the moment other than clients saying decommission buildings, take furniture out. No one is saying we want to buy new furniture. So they've got to have better planning, logistics, and help for those clients to understand how the stuff that's coming out can actually be reused. One of the more exciting areas we're working on at the moment is taking existing conference room furniture and enhancing that to be video conference capable, because it's something that you can't just stick a camera on the end of the computer quite so much nowadays. And also by next year, there's a whole new marketplace we're building where if you take a big desk and make a small desk, you're still left with lots of stuff. And we're putting a lot of investment at the moment is what can that be turned into? And we're looking at the domestic market, we're looking at the wooden gifts market, we're looking, funnily enough, at the music. Guys are working at the moment to look at the music sector to see if you can actually use the materials from desks to make guitar pedal boards, a wide range of what's going on. And the innovation is going to be to say that every single part of a desk or a chair or a cupboard, we have to find a new use, not just cut it down and throw away the bit you didn't use, because that can represent 50% of the desk. So we have to turn that into completely new things, and that's where we're building it, right down to desk edging being turned into key fobs as a marketing tool that can go out for people. So there's lots of new things that are going on.
Thank you, John. I'm afraid I'm going to have to jump in here just in the
No, that's fine. I think that's the last slide, actually. So it's just saying what we need to do.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Really interesting to hear the detail of the economics and the business case for it, and some good advice there, I think, for other circular suppliers as well. I'm going to hand over now to our next panelist, Jimmy Harbour from Right Office. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thanks for all the other presentations as well. They're really interesting, and I think there's a bit of overlap as well. I've got 8 minutes. What I intend to do over the course of 8 minutes is to provide a bit of context as to why this conversation is important. I want to talk about the benefits of circular economy furniture and in a broader context furnishings, and then delve kind of specifically, given we're talking to procurement officials, on barriers and enablers towards circular procurement. So why is the conversation important and why is it so timely? And I can't change the slide. Yeah, here we go. For us, we always start with this graph because we think it's an amazing bit of research that was done by a professor in embodied energy, a guy called Dr. Graham Trelaw. And his basically raison d'etre was to try and work out the overall carbon footprint of a building over its 40-year life. So if you would think instinctively on the basis of that kind of brief, that where would be the biggest source of emissions? It would be the operational energy, i.e. the things that keep the lights and the HVAC systems powering, or it would be the structure, the core buildings that you use to actually build the office itself. What was quite surprising and actually kind of counterintuitive from this research was actually the single biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions over the commercial builder's 40-year life was furniture. It accounts for 30% of the overall footprint, which is greater than operational energy and shed and core. And when you include the other things that kind of constitute Cat B fit out, so that's flooring, electronics and wall finish, that really rises to a really significant 42% of the overall footprint of the building. And there is a really kind of counterintuitive point here, like how can the desks we sit on, the chairs we sit on be such a significant source of environmental issues? And for us, the reason is because there's a value chain associated with furniture, and often these furnishings, that rewards, inculcates waste every step in the process. Whereas you only build one building, you take furniture, you dig the raw materials out of South America, you smelt them in China, you bring them into the UK, you use them for a few years, and then you throw them into landfill. And you repeat that process over and over again. So the reason that you have something like furniture being such a significant environmental issue is because of the way that we use it and the process of waste. So the key point here is this is a really, really valuable conversation. People don't really think about furniture. I think it's fantastic that Zero Waste Scotland and the others are embracing this topic with as much enthusiasm as they are. And so if we're thinking about waste as one of the significant and predominant sources of environmental harm, the circular economy provides a fantastic alternative and a way of addressing that. So, I mean, essentially this is our model, and there's bits that aligns with both Anne and John, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. What we begin with is an understanding of the customer's requirements, and that's a design process. We have a free and award-winning design service with trained interior architects and interior designers. We can also work collaboratively with an outsourced architectural and design practice as well. We source furniture that can be from a client's existing stock. As John alluded to there, the economics really make sense if you're remanufacturing something that comes from an existing building. That won't work for everyone because they don't always want to reuse their furniture or have enough to do it. So we then source from the second-hand market. In the UK, we send 75,000 tons of office furniture to landfill every working year. There's a lot of it, and there's a fantastic array of suppliers out there that can provide it for us, one of which is and Crown as well, who we work with and worked with before. We also design furniture from waste materials ourselves, and I'm going to touch upon that a little bit. We remanufacture. We take remanufacturing very seriously. For us, it's a quality controlled engineering process. We have a bunch of engineers that we employ to make sure that we can return something that looks and performs as new. We always do that locally. UK, we have its quality control process. We do the transportation and installation of the items ourselves. We can lease it or we can sell it to you. We're pretty flexible. And every item we sell comes with a guaranteed take back offer as well. We would be a terrible circular business if we didn't want to take it back after its first life, because we trust in the quality and we want to work on it over and over again. The next logical question here is, actually, does this thing that you're saying remanufactured look and perform as new? The answer is unequivocally yes. A slide here just to illustrate that through a task chair. The one on the right is the new one. The one on the left is the one that we've remanufactured. From the base of appearance, they look exactly the same. The only difference is that we're idiots and we messed up the photo shoots and got the arms the wrong way around because they're telescopic. Apart from that, it both looks and performs as new. However, it's 20–30% lower than framework prices. And so essentially what you're looking at there is a sort of 60 to 70% reduction, actually probably more like 80% reduction on the list price. It's 80% lower carbon emissions. It's a high score for WellBeing and LEED, has the same warranty, and there's large volumes available. We have signed a contract for 3,000 of these from one client. It's not just remanufacturing. One of the really interesting and advanced points about the circular economy, and I think John alluded to it here, is people are combining and allying product design with remanufacturing and creating fantastic products, and fantastic lines of products, not just one-off. The one on the left here, this is a remanufactured Vitra table with some remanufactured Vitra chairs, combined with a post-consumer waste plastic top, made from kitchen chopping boards and black plastic wrapping, heated, squished and pressed into a top. That's made by an amazing company called Smile Plastics, who we combine with on product design. The thing on the right is something that we're in the process of developing. It's what we're modestly calling the most sustainable sofa in the world. It's got a frame made from post-consumer waste plastic, recycled fabric, upholstered in recycled filling. It will be upholstered in thread that can be dissolved by a heat gun, and it will come with a take back offer and have its carbon footprint offset as well. So the point here is there's amazing things you can do in the context of furniture that aren't just remanufacturing. But it's not just about furniture. What you need to be getting across to your procurement teams is that it's not the capability of the market to deliver that should be in question. It's the appetite for the client, and it's the appetite for the procurer themselves. It's not just limited to furniture. There's circular and sustainable alternatives to everything, whether it be materials like these recycled ceramic tiles, whether it be electronics, carbon absorbing or recycled paint, or whether it's reclaimed flooring. It's all available, it's all fantastic, and it often is much cheaper. For us, the way that you embrace that and make this happen is through a design-led circular approach to innovation. Just some example here of some of the design work that we do, and this includes some of the amazing materials out there from a range of different companies. Our focus is furniture, and we are specialists in remanufacturing furniture, but there's an amazing array of things out there as well. A key point about the circular economy is, at a very basic level, you have to take something apart, not just make it. So that means there's twice the opportunities for labour. Furthermore, with the circular economy, it's an amazing opportunity to deliver local socio-economic value. We've delivered 6,500 hours of paid living wage employment by setting up a local workshop on site to do the remanufacturing, and that's something that we prioritise in terms of our business model. We also work with an amazing array of suppliers, including people like the Merthyr Tydfil Institute for the Blind. We've done a range of different projects. We've done over 170, help clients save millions of pounds, avoid millions of kgs of CO2, and provided 6,500 hours of furniture. Some photos here. And I guess in terms of the key crux of the conversation that's interesting to you guys, what is it that stops companies like us applying through procurement frameworks? Now, this is just my view, but there's a few key barriers which I think are really important. One of them is really prescriptive frameworks. So, we recently went and applied for a framework where there was 166 items with core product items, and which were very, very overly specified in terms of the color and also the details of it. that doesn't necessarily, that is not consonant with the way that circular business models work. You just can't do it. I mean, we have an amazing array of stock and we can get anything across the second-hand market. So really there's a point about flexibility that's going to be a key one here. Upfront pricing rather than lifecycle costing is a real issue. I think Anne, John, and all of us, what we can say is we've internalized the cost of disposal pretty much into the price of the item anyway, right? So what really a lot of purveyors of new furniture are expecting you to bear the cost of throwing it away or landfilling it. That's an integral part of our business model. For us, we have planned for the item to have a second life, and we life cycle cost our furniture as well. So you need to make sure that the procurement framework does that as well. I think often a problem with procurement frameworks and potentially not so much tenders is the inability to utilize a client's existing stock. If you have an existing source of furniture, make sure that that's available to the procurers as well, and make sure you're asking them how they're going to integrate that into the project. Because if you don't, then you're throwing away value. And that's a really key part of producing a really progressive tender framework. Avoid the race to the bottom for pricing, work out what your budget is, and recognize there's a broader suite in terms of value here. And make sure you're not measuring the wrong things. There's a real risk I might go into a rant, but we were scored down in the sustainability section for a tender because we didn't answer the question about packaging in the right way. And it's ludicrous. You know, we don't use packaging. We're a remanufactured circular economy furniture. Make sure the questions you're asking are measuring the right things and take the right things into account. That was a bit ranty and negative, but hopefully enablers, this could be a bit more positive. How do we get here?
I'm afraid you'll have to do this in about 20 seconds, if that's okay.
20 seconds, no problem. Okay. Education, this webinar is great. Encourage innovation and flexibility. This image on the right, the design was here, we were given. What it looked like is below. What you can see here is not exactly the same, but it's totally aligned. And it's about flexibility. Prioritize it politically. Make sure you're asking people about wellness and traceability, because we can provide traceability and wellness in a way that new providers can't, and they can't guarantee it hasn't come through other parts of the world. Case studies are really important as well. Please get them in touch. We've written blogs on the subject, and we know lots of smart people who work in procurement, including some of the really smart people on this website, and we can introduce you. If you want to get in touch with me, I'll change my name to my email address on the Zoom webinar, and you can. Thank you for your time, and sorry for overrunning.
Thank you, Jamie. Some really good practical tips for procurers there. So that's really useful information. So that's a very comprehensive look at the UK circular furniture market, but now heading over to Belgium to hear from DJ Pierre at North.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So my name is Didier, out of Belgium. I don't know whether I'm the only Belgian who is live here attending. Welcome in our beautiful world of North. We are not really a manufacturer of furniture because we own 3 companies within the family. We have a consultancy company which is called NOF, and we will discuss that later on. All of the logistics, manufacturing, moving, reusing, the actual work and reworking on the furniture is done by another company which is called Transmove, which is basically more or less similar as what I heard from Crown Workspace. So we're going to talk about the consultancy side and how can you involve your customer or your buyer in the process of reusing his furniture. So Stella, could you go to the next slide? Yes. So as a consultancy company, we work together with our customers and try to transform their workspaces in a more future-proofed way of working together. So we do a lot of change management, and the question that we ask there is why, and why do you want to change, and what do you want to change in order to get a good view on how the customer wants to work together towards the future. And then put that concept into an interior design project, and then it becomes really interesting because once we know what to do and how to do it and have determined the look and feel, we're going to see and examine with the customer in which way can we actually build this new environment out of your old furniture. So at that stage, our customer or our buyer becomes our supplier. So because we're always working with what he has in his office. And once that study is done, then we go to the bidding process, help the customer how he gets his bidding process done, and try to help him in order to realize the whole project. So Next slide, we go quickly over it. You see our team. It's quite a bunch of people, and I really like to work with them. We have a lot of youngsters because we need a lot of creativity, creative thinking on how to reuse, rework, remanufacture, and redesign furniture. Next slide, you can see some of the customers which we work with on a daily or a weekly basis. So we're mostly involved with larger companies who have some stocks of furniture that we can rework and put it back together in their new environments. Of course, on the next slide, we are AMAS certified, we are ISO certified, and I'm very happy to say that within the next few weeks we will get the certification of the SDG of the United Nations. We will be certified on the 17 goals, so which is nice to have. So how do we deal with the change project? That's on the next slide. I'm going to go quickly over it. Based on the data that we collect at our customers due to different types of investigation that we do, we're going to have a look on how he wants to work together in terms of bricks, bytes, behavior, and the branding. Branding is a very important step. For us, we need to take this first step of change management. We need to take that in our business model, because if you want to transform furniture or transform an office into a new office out of the existing furniture, it's really a change mindset that you need to have from a customer. You need really to have your buy-in from your customer in order to accept what is going to happen in the environment. And therefore, we focus a lot on the change management itself, collect the data, what he wants, and really get him involved in the transformation process and the advantages of the transformation as from the beginning. On the next slide, we can go through it, Stella, and go directly to the next one, because this is basically more into detail. So once we know what he wants and how he wants it, we're going to draw with our interior designers the macro plan, and then go bring the macro plan down to the micro plan. And the micro plan is basically really on paper, put the final position of furniture within the new environment. And then once that's done, we're going to sit together again on the next one, Stella, and have a look on the look and feel, really the interior design. How, based on the corporate guidelines and what we know out of the examination that we've done, how do you want the things to look? So we put up proposals, mood boards, and then organize workshops with the customer. So this is basically comparable with other interior design companies or workspace experts. But then we come to the next stage, because now everything is determined on paper, and then we're going to go back to the old office and see basically what he has. So there starts a really interesting part of our work, because up till now our customer has been a customer, a client. He bought our services, but now he really becomes a supplier of raw materials. So we look to his office as a large mine, or a second-hand furniture shop, or a shop where you can buy really materials. And the aim is to try and as much as possible to create a new environment out of the existing contents of his old building. And then again, we go into the inventory business. So we make an inventory of all of the contents of his old building and determine item per item and article per article. How can we reuse it, repair it, refurbish it, in the end remanufacture it, and what really needs to be done. So we take it again through the different stages. So how to dismantle it, and then look to the different articles or parts of the furniture, and then describe into detail what needs to be done on each part in order to put it back together in a new form and a new layout, etc., etc. And once that's done, so the inventory and determined article per article. One back, Sheila. Just can you go one back, because yeah. We are looking then with the customer to all the reverse logistics part, and that's really the pain in the ass in our business, because in the end, you want to recreate an office environment, reusing as much as possible out of its old plan. So you have to determine again for each article, as from the beginning, what needs to be done, when does it need to be done, where is it in the old building, where does it go to in the new building, the different stages of manufacturing. So it's quite complex logistics that comes in. And then of course, once that's done, then we go and go to the really make a kind of working book and describe into detail how we're going to set off and set on. So the next few slides you will are examples of what can be done in order to reuse. You can go through them, Spella, reuse, remanufacture, or repair, or refurbish furniture. But you've seen similar things on the previous presentations. So that's what we really do. Now, once that stage is done, and then our customer becomes again a buyer, and we need to get them. Yeah, one more, I think, ping pong table, yes. And that's all the procurement process, because it's not really easy, and I think you will hear that later on from Sabine. It's not really easy to go out on the market as a buyer and try to get that kind of services in. So what we've done with NOF is we try to sit down with the buyers and get them through a RFI or an RFP and be a consultant. How are we going to ask on the market what we really need in order to recreate our offices? So that's a very important step, and it's not always easy for buyers to sit together with consultants and try to describe the things that need to be done. Of course, you have the legal side and you have the objectivity side, but I think there needs to be much more interaction between the market and between the different players on the market, and to push really a kind of circularity in the market to get things done. So next, so what are the gains or the benefits for the customer? Already a long time ago, I think about 10 years ago, we developed together with a consultant, another consultancy company, the LCA. So we basically know if you transform a cupboard or a table or chair, or if you rework furniture, we need or we know how much carbon you are going to use, how much energy you're going to use. And we have drawn up or developed them, I think about 10 years ago. So we know exactly, based on all the transport, logistics, manufacturing, all of the services that we do, how much energy do we need in order to transform a certain piece of furniture from A to B. And within that LCA, we're going to compare that if you're not reusing your furniture, but you throw your furniture away and buy new furniture, how much energy, carbon, etc. do you need as a customer?
Didier, I'm afraid I'm going to have to jump in the interests of time.
So
sorry,
we go to the next slide. That's a small wrap up. So what are the advantages for the customer? And if you look at it as a whole, if you transform your offices out of the existing, you get about 90% less waste. You need social economy, but that has been discussed already, because we need craftsmen and we don't find them anymore in the regular economy. You get about 80 to 90% carbon reduction. We need youngsters because we need creative people in order to redesign the furniture. We always ask for a manufacturer to work with about 100% renewable energy, so we're looking to solar panels, etc. And the partnership, that's, I think it's the most important, because our buyer becomes supplier, becomes partner, becomes buyer again. So very interesting. The next few slides are some examples of what we've done. You can go through them, Spella, and how it looks. It looks new, and it is new, but it's a new based on the urban mining process. Voila, in short.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, unfortunately, our Norwegian supplier is unable to join us this morning, but we will get the chance to hear some further European perspectives from our procurers, and we'll begin with Sabine from Rigforstadt.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sabine van der Leij. It was great to hear about all these initiatives from suppliers working on circular furniture. I'm going to tell you about the procure side of point of view. Currently, I'm working as a program manager, sustainability and sustainable procurement within the Dutch government. And in my former job, I was a category manager for office furniture, and I set up the strategy and the ambition for circular furniture for the entire Dutch government. So to give you a short story about this, is what we did is we set up a circular furniture tender that was in 2017. We had a preparation of 3 years before we set out this tender. And it was a tender for about 100,000 workspaces for all the ministries. And we were supposed to spend approximately 200 million euros within 10 years. We had 28 participating governmental organizations, and we had a contract with a duration of 10 years. And it was divided in, well, initial 3 years. Then if everything went well, it was going to be prolonged with another 3 years, and then another 2 and another 2 years. So what we did, we set an ambition because I heard it early on in one of the previous presentations that we wanted to work with the current furniture that we had, because we had so many office buildings with so many furniture. So the ambition was to reuse as lot of furniture as possible instead of buying a lot of new furniture. So we said we want to extend the lifetime of our current furniture. And we're going to do this by finding a supplier that could help us with the maintenance of the furniture, but also with the repairment, with the refurbishment, or even repurpose of some of the existing furniture. So that is one side that we wanted to do. And of course, there are always a situation in which the current furniture couldn't be reused. And then we said, in that case, we would like to have new furniture, but they have to meet really strict circularity requirements. So basically, those were these two starting points for our tender. And what we did is that we awarded all applications with 80% on quality and 20% on price, which for some procurers is they get sort of anxious when we propose this, because they said, well, it's not possible. We have to look at the price. This is very important. But we managed to go through with this, and we did set a sort of threshold. So because we set a threshold, we could say this is the highest price we want to go. And we are really going to look at quality, because it's not only just about looking in a catalog and just choosing your furniture and then buying it, but you want to have a supplier that could really think with us and could really develop this circular ambition that we had, especially because in 2014, when I started to set this all up, there weren't really a lot of suppliers that could already provide us with all the services that we were asking for. So we needed to find a supplier that could sort of set up the roadmap with us to see how we could reach our ambition. So what we did is that we had the tender, and we asked mainly 3 things, because we didn't know exactly what was out there, but we did know that we wanted circular furniture. We did know that we wanted to reuse our furniture. And we also did know, because I had these 28 organizations participating, that I couldn't say, well, if the price for furniture is really high, it's no, well, it doesn't matter because it's circular. No, it had to be the same price or lower. So these were some starting points. And we asked basically to the subscribers, give us an action plan and tell us in this action plan actually what your ambition on circularity is within your own organization. What is the knowledge of circularity that you have? And also, how are you going to encourage the circularity within all the different organizations that we have? Because the money, at least the budget, it wasn't in my hands. All these 28 organizations had their own budget. So it was quite challenging, as it's sort of like DJ's already said, we also had to change the mindset of all people to change them to think for new furniture at first, to changing it, look around you and see what furniture you have within your organization. So we wanted to know how the suppliers could help us with stimulating this circular view on furniture. And so we also wanted to know their incentives to reach this, and also sort of set up some risk management, so they could really tell us what are the measures you're going to take. And like I said, we also had an award criteria for the circular aspects of new product. What we did, we used a tool and we sort of measured two different types of chairs, the office chairs, an office desk, a conference chair, and a cupboard, because those were the main things that we were ordering, well, mostly. And we said we want to have a bill of materials from these products. We would like to know the percentage of recycled content. We want to know if there are any toxic components within these furniture. Within this furniture, and we wanted to know if the office desks and the chairs were also demountable. And we also wanted to know if there was a percentage of material that could be reused in the future. So this aspect we also looked at. And the third one was social return, because as you're going to ask more for services instead of projects, it's really a great opportunity to also help people that normally wouldn't get a job really easily, to give them just a sort of position within your organization, within the organization of the supplier, to help with the maintenance of the furniture, to help with the refurbishment of the furniture. So this is basically what we did, and it helped us. We selected 2 suppliers that were really able to reuse our current furniture, and the same suppliers could also provide us with new circular furniture. Maybe you think now, well, if they're going to provide you with new circular furniture, why would they just encourage the use of the current furniture? Well, we asked them, how are you going to manage this? So the suppliers, they told us within their plan of action, for example, that within the first year, we're going to reuse 40% of your furniture. Then the second year, we're going to use 60%, and so on. And when we read these numbers, we said, okay, that's fine. Then we make a KPI of this. And if it's working out fine, then we can prolong the contract. But this is also about trust. So we also work together with trust, and also said we have to develop this together. We as the buyer, we do have a sort of responsibility to make it easier for the suppliers to reuse our furniture. So it was something that worked from both ways. And I think it worked out quite fine, and we are really working together to realize our ambitions at the moment. So the contract is still running. I'm not really involved anymore within the contract, but we see that we at the moment have spent a lot of less money on furniture, and also we see that we saved a lot of new primary resources, but also the the carbon dioxide emissions, they got lower than they were before. So this is basically, I think I'm within time still, my story for now. Thank you for your attention. Peter, we cannot hear you.
Sorry, I had an emergency vehicle going past, so I muted and then forgot to unmute. But thank you very much, Sabine. That was really useful. Heading over now to our next procurer, Emma from the City of Malmö.
Thank you, Peter. It always feels a little bit like Eurovision Song Contest, doesn't it, with these international meetings? So my name is Emma Burrioson, and I'm a project manager at the City of Malmö in Sweden. And I've been working together with the procurement officer to create a framework contract for secondhand furniture and related services in the City of Malmö. And it has some similarities with what Sabine just told you, but also quite a lot of differences. It's a lot smaller, this tender and this contract. We didn't spend 3 years doing the pre-work of the contract. And we also, our ambition wasn't to do a perfect tender. We just wanted to do our first circular tender and to learn from this contract while having the contract, and see how we could prolong the life of furniture within the city of Malmö, and also buy circular or secondhand furniture. So our furniture is, like I said, our tender is for secondhand furniture. We have around 13 different furniture that we asked for in the contract. So not 166, which we heard before, that some other municipality asked for. And we also have services like reconditioning, upholstery, carpentry, painting, redesign. Because like I said in the beginning, we want to prolong the life of the furniture we already have, not only buying furniture, even if it's secondhand. We also have inventory, rent and storage as a part of the tender and the contract, and also the ability to sell furniture to the suppliers. It is, as I mentioned, a framework contract, and we have 4 suppliers, which I would say that 3 of them are SMEs with a business model only to sell secondhand furniture. And we wanted to create this contract because we saw the need for secondhand furniture. There were already departments buying secondhand furniture without a contract. So that was the first why we wanted to do this. And also when we started to investigate this, we saw that we throw away a lot of furniture. I was very sad to see this container at the city hall, outside the city hall a couple of years ago, with, as you can see, more or less new furniture in it. But I was also happy to be able to document this, because this gave us the proof that we needed, that we need to take care of the furniture we already have. And we did an estimation that we threw away in 2017 70 tons of furniture. So this really gave us a lot of proof also to why we needed to do this. You could say that the suppliers that we have, they were already established. So it wasn't really difficult for us to find a supplier or suppliers. We had a conversation with them, of course, before, and talking about the tender documents and so on. But of course, they were very happy for us being the first bigger municipality who did a tender like this. And we learned something already. The contract now is about 1.5 years old, and of course something that we knew from the beginning, and something that we did learn also so far, is to really think about the implementation during the procurement phase. We have done a lot of communication for this contract. I would say more than you usually do when it comes to new contracts. We have met the buyers within the city of Malmö. We had a lot of articles in our intranet. We also did an exhibition in the city hall where the suppliers put their furniture, and we just made the employees of the city of Malmö be able to see that the secondhand furniture could look just as new ones, but maybe with a little bit of a nice history behind them. We also had a good collaboration with the suppliers. They, especially 2 of them, we could say that we have 4, but 2 of them have sold a lot more than the other 2. And they have really been good advocates for this contract, because they're very service-minded. And so the information has also started to spread organically through the organizations, since they have been so service-minded. We also have a new contract for interior architects, that we are hoping that this also will help us to spread the message. And in the contract for interior architects, it said that they should work at least with 1 project with the secondhand furniture during the contract. And what is also important to mention here is that we also have a contract for new furniture. Maybe this will change in the future, but for now we do have a contract also for new furniture. So we also created a priority list where we set out how we want the buyers to think. That they first they should look for furniture within the organization. Secondly, they could redesign, upholster furniture, etc. Then buy secondhand furniture, and then least buy new furniture. And also, of course, that if they want to get rid of furniture, they should sell furniture to the suppliers and not throw them away, as has been done in the past. And we also did estimation, a very low estimation, how much CO2 we saved on this. And we know from the first year that we saved about 200,000 kilos of CO2 by buying secondhand furniture, and that's equals about 70 round trips to Thailand. We want to make this measures better in the future, but for now we could only estimate. And also we know that it's a lot cheaper. As you heard here today earlier, it is cheaper to buy secondhand furniture. We don't have a number exactly, but we say at least 30% cheaper. And if you want to know more about the contract, of course you can contact me. You have my info here, and also I will put this link in the chat box. There is a link to a film that we did, and where you're able to see office that's been refurbished only with, or almost only with, secondhand furniture. So I will also put this link in the box. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. That's great. And as I say, we will share these slides after, so you'll be able to access that link when we share the slides. So heading now into the question and answer panel. Thank you for all of the questions which were submitted in advance. We had probably, well, about 25 questions submitted, and we've had more come through on the chat. So as you can imagine, we won't be able to get through all of them, but there are some common themes which have come through. So I've tried to amalgamate the questions based on those. The first one which I'd like to ask, which is for the procurers, is what is one thing that suppliers can do to make their offering more attractive? So that's sort of picking up on the point that John made earlier about it's not good enough just to be circular, but you need to be able, the suppliers need to offer sort of a better package as a whole. So from the procurer's perspective, what would make them really stand out to you?
I could say one thing. There was also kind of a question before in the chat, and something that has been a hindrance, I would say a barrier for us, is that usually there is a like internal market space for all the buyers within the city of Malmö, where you can see the furniture or the whatever you need to buy. And since our suppliers for non-new or secondhand furniture, the kind of small suppliers, small companies, they didn't have the possibility to have a market space like that. And that, of course, is some way of a challenge, because people usually like to see the things before they buy. And of course, it's also the challenge because since it's they don't know what kind of furniture they have. And I don't know really how to work around that, but that is something that we need to address in the future to make more people willing to buy secondhand furniture. But because today you have to call, you have to email the supplier and so on, so it takes a little bit of longer time now.
Yeah, and maybe in addition to that, what we saw, because we had a framework contract with different suppliers, and what we basically asked them is to reuse a lot of furniture from other brands than their own, is it would really help if they were also willing to work together, which is sometimes a bit, well, challenging, and not only to work together as they say they would like to have the contract, so we're going to work together, but really work together in how to make things easy to exchange if you use different brands of furniture. And they're doing this really at the moment for our contract. And what also helps is really practical, is like I've also already seen with the different suppliers, is to make it visual, that the that new, well, circular furniture has the same look and feel as new furniture. We really had to overcome some barriers that they thought, well, it's secondhand furniture, I don't want it. And of course, the world is changing, so it's getting more and more easy, but that is also really helpful, so to make it visual. Yeah.
It's nice to not have that new plastic smell. Maybe that is something to to communicate more.
And then a question for the suppliers. So there was a question that came through on the chat, which was around the time frames of procuring remanufactured rather than new furniture and how that compares. I imagine if procurers are going through the remanufacturing process, that's a longer process than simply buying new furniture. But Anne is shaking her head, and so is Jamie, so please correct me on that.
Hey, you know, the timing is just one of the issues that I hadn't realised was a feature or a benefit from circular until we did a massive order. It was our first significant order. It was 1,000, I think like 3,000 desks for Tesco's. And I was speaking to the head of facilities there and asking, you know, was it the environmental benefits that that won you over? Was it the cost saving? Was it staff and perception? And he said, no, you could just do it quicker. And, you know, they had this furniture in place. So we were actually remanufacturing their existing furniture. The resources already existed. He would have had to wait 3 months, typically, to order that furniture to be shipped in from somewhere in Europe. So, you know, as soon readily, you know, updated all our communications to add a new benefit that I'd had at the time. This was back in sort of 2012, 2013, really early stage for us. I hadn't understood that time and the speed was an issue, was a benefit. And similarly, people go onto the website and order or speak to us and order furniture. We're looking about 2 weeks for like bespoke refurbishment of furniture. If you're ordering new, you know, that's not, and I'm talking about quality, you know, really good quality brands. If you're ordering new, particularly in the sort of procurement space of businesses or public sector organisations, the lead time is way over that. So I'm sure Jamie will say the same.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're often less than half the lead time of a conventional provider of new furniture, particularly it's the summer peak. So our standard lead time is between 2 and 3 weeks. Often it goes between 6 and 8 weeks for new in the summer.
And John.
Yeah, can I add into that one as well, Peter? A lot of the stuff that we're doing at the moment within the public sector for our home office desks, we're getting, what we've said is if the order comes through to us by Wednesday, it'll go out that Friday. And that's for any desk, any size, because we don't just do standard, it's 1 meter by 800, it's whatever fits the end user's living space. So they can specify a size and we will manufacture that desk normally within 48 hours of the order coming through, because the materials are sitting ready to go. And if you try to get 750 wide by 620 deep desk from a major manufacturer, they just simply can't do it. We're actually making very specifically exactly what people want. Now, whether that's 300 workstations into a major office or one to be delivered to a cottage in the middle of the woods somewhere in rural Fife. So I think timing is much, much better for remanufactured, because we don't have massive machines that need to be retooled, rejigged. We just make what needs to be done.
Excellent, thanks. So that's a good bit of myth busting we've done there. Funnily enough, the next question is around the transition to home working and how, as suppliers, you're dealing with that. I suppose 3 parts. Firstly, are you able to provide changes to the actual furniture for use of home working? Also looking at the the disinfection of furniture angle. Maybe that's not so much homeworking, maybe that's in the office, it'll have to be disinfected. Somebody's just put up a question about that. But then also around the logistics when it comes to homeworking as well, because that's a whole new issue that you're having to deal with. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, we're working with a number of clients at the moment where if we look at the question, we make exactly what's needed for the end user to fit in with their requirements in terms of color, finish, shape, size. So whatever they need to do can actually be manufactured using, the best way to view it is we have a manufacturing resource where the materials sit on pallets ready to go. The materials just happen to have been previous office furniture. So it's stripped down to a material level. So it's not take a desk and turn it into, it's just use the material. So we can make any aspect of what's coming through and any type of desk, any type of storage, seating, whatever needs to be done. So everything that you would want, we can do. The disinfecting, every single product is made and fully assembled before it goes out, and it goes through a full cleaning process with spray disinfectants. So that's something we're very conscious of in Scotland. It's a requirement we have to put in. So everything is actually cleaned prior to leaving here in an environment that's already been COVID secured for what we're doing. And the logistics, perhaps we do have one of the slightly more difficult logistic routes being in central Scotland and supplying. But we have clients now who are asking us to go into their offices, uplift the furniture, bring it back, clean it, and then re-deliver individual chairs to individuals anywhere within a 100-mile radius of where we are. And we have a pricing model which still makes that less expensive than buying a catalogue chair, hence why we're in Loch Gilpin tomorrow. So that's just a matter of sitting down and saying, what is it the customer wants? We've been doing this for 20 years. So none of that is a major problem, even when you're very rural. In fact, I think when I've worked in London, I can get to 100 miles away from here faster than you can 20 miles across London. So particularly with a van. But all of those things are easy. That's just working with the client to say what you need and then actually delivering that. None of that helps.
That's great, thanks. Are there any other thoughts on that from the other suppliers? Maybe just a quick answer, say whether you can do that. Yeah.
Just a quick answer on that. I mean, our business model before COVID was business to business, because we'd found delivering to the domestic market just too much of a nightmare. We're not, we're not John Lewis. If someone's ordered a bespoke item, delivered it, and it gets to their house and they think, well, actually, I want it in green, that's not what we were set up for. But we had to adjust immediately for the home workers, because obviously that was what the market was demanding. But we overcame delivery by using curbside delivery and not installation. And, and similarly to when you're doing smaller quantities like ones and twos, you can turn them around really, really quickly. But obviously, one of the concerns I have about the impact on sustainability and circularity is where we've taken and moved desks from either workplaces to individuals' homes or set up their desk environment is trying to keep hold of that resource. 600 chairs in an office is a fantastic resource for the circular economy. 600 chairs in different people's homes, that is my current concern. How do we keep the aggregate of the resource that's just been distributed to the domestic environment? And we're working on that at the moment.
So can I just totally echo what Anne said as well. I mean, for us, we're set up as a B2B business, and the logistics of doing the B2C things are hard for us. So we try and aggregate it by working through resellers and also doing corporate home working packages. I think there's a broader kind of strategic question about, like, for us, I mean, we've actually won our two biggest projects during lockdown, and I think that plays into kind of something. Obviously, the way that we're going to work is fundamentally transformed, but there's also a broader question here about, like, is the office dead, right? Like, because this is something that people, you see lots of quite sensationalist articles on the subject. And I think, for me, I think some of that analysis is a little bit socially regressive, particularly in places like London, where, it's okay to write a blog about the office being dead when you have a beautiful home in the home counties with a spare office. But if you've got 3 kids running around and you're in a council flat, then it becomes a bit harder. It's also harder if you're young and want to work in a space. I think ultimately the office will be different, but in terms of these conversations about covered home deliveries, I think there's a broader strategic question about our relationship with the office as well. And for me, I think that although we're needing to adapt and make sure that we can service the home market, I think some of the conversations essentially saying this will be the future going forward are potentially a little bit premature.
Very interesting. The next question then is one that came through on the chat from Claire Downey. Nice to see you joining us, Claire. I know you're over in Ireland. For tenders requiring remanufacture or reuse of existing furniture, have you found that the quality of the existing furniture is not good enough for it to be remanufactured, and is that a problem? I'm going to ask this one first to the procurers, but then I'm sure the suppliers have some thoughts to share as well.
I'll start then. No, I would say that our supplier have really good quality furniture. It's furniture that they're made to last 20-30 years. So no, of course the contractor is still young, so it's, of course, this is something that we have to follow and see if there will be complaints like this in the future, but it's not something that we see as a barrier, or also no.
No, and it's the same for us, and it's the same what I hear John Ross say, is that we also get a warranty for the circular furniture as well. And that is really important, I think, because if there is a new piece of furniture that you get a warranty of 10 years and then you get refurbished and you don't get a warranty, or a warranty for 5 years, it's less attractive. So the warranty really helps. And I have seen that it's great furniture. So no problems on our side.
Thanks. And then to the suppliers, have you found that when your clients are sending you furniture to be remanufactured, it's just not of good enough quality for that? Is that an issue? Go ahead, Ian.
Oh,
sorry, you're all.
That's fine. We're the vast majority of public sector furniture that we get in is low grade. A lot of the pictures we saw before, the Herman Miller stuff, the Vitra, as much as we would love to have that running around Scotland, what we actually get is Me Too product that comes through. And we're doing a job for a large university next week where I'm pretty certain what we're getting is absolute rubbish that's been stored in warehouses for long, long times. What we've had to do as a circular economy business is look at that and say, that is the material that's coming through. So what we've developed is the ability to actually strip that down to component level, reuse it. So whilst it would be lovely to get furniture that you can pretty much just bring in, clean, turn around and take out, actually we're just using it as material resource. We strip out the screws, the hinges, the bolts, the feet, the handles. Every part is stripped out, and what we're then left with is core material, which we've now got multiple uses for. So even something that is water damaged and completely unsuitable to go back in as a reuse product, we actually use that material for other parts of the process. And that's where the development really has to be, because it's my biggest concern looking forward for the furniture industry. And the thing I posted up on the chat is the public sector about to become a net disposer rather than buyer of product? We've had 5 very large clients in the last 3 weeks indicate that they're shutting down their offices and want all the furniture removed, with no intention of buying any of it back as remanufactured product. And that's going to produce a significant change, because the reuse sector of taking it, cleaning it, slightly refurbishing and selling it back is going to disappear. There is a massive surplus of public sector furniture in existence at the moment, and we have to look at that as a material resource and say, what can we make from that product? So it may not go back out as office furniture, it may go out as completely different things. Bunk beds, fireplaces, domestic furniture, play furniture. We're doing stuff for play furniture for kids. So it won't go back into an office. And that's my biggest concern, is not the quality of it, it's just going to be the total volume with no reuse market. I'm happy to ask other questions on that one.
Really, really interesting point there. It is coming up to 11 o'clock, so unfortunately we're going to have to finish the conversation here. Thank you for all of the questions that have been submitted. We are going to put together a fact sheet on how to procure remanufactured furniture, and we will try to address all of the sort of key things that have come up in the question through that fact sheet, and that will be sent to all of the attendees in, well, I'm going to say 3 to 4 weeks time. That's what we'll aim for anyway. So I'm just going to ask if the panelists, thank you very much for joining us today. If you could just hang on for a couple of minutes at the end, and to everybody else, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.